quick service announcement, so you are not confused this morning. Bulletins say that our 90 Days Bible study starts today at 4 p.m. Next week we'll have an informational meeting to start that, but it does not start today. But at 4 o'clock, Encounter Youth is happening, so if you are and you have kids 6th through 12th grade, send them our way, 4 o'clock. All right, all of our kiddos, you are free to go to WOW in a nice, orderly, and quiet fashion. You can go. We are in the year 2020, and just saying it sounds futuristic. The year 2020. The year 2000 was a landmark, and we thought, man, that is a crazy sounding year. As we turn the century, we are not in the 1900s any longer. But I thought by 2020, in my 1980 juvenile mind, when I was watching the Back to the Future movies and the Jetsons, that I was a robot made by now. There is a Roomba that can vacuum, so that's kind of the same thing. I thought that we would have flying cars and not fly here from Baytown this morning. Sometimes flies, but that's just because her right foot is heavy on the gas sometimes, but not literally flying. But when I think of the year 2020, I think of all kinds of futuristic things that we don't have. I did not put, wake up my food in a dehydrator. It didn't come in little powder or anything like that. That Marty McFly told us that it would be that way in the year 2020, but that has not happened. We have all kinds of landmarks. There was 88 reasons why the apocalypse happened in 1988. Then the infamous Y2K bug happened in 2000, so we thought, we all prepared, a lot of people prepared, bought water, canned goods, and dug a trench or whatever to save themselves from the catastrophe of the Y2K bug, and computers were going to crash, there'd be no banking system, and all these things happened. That didn't happen either for most people. The year 2000, I don't know if you can pinpoint exactly where you were, but I know exactly where I was. My mom said, "You're a good Christian young man, son. You are home from college. You will be at church at midnight on New Year's." We had a little thing called night service. I don't know if anybody's familiar with that. That's when you're submitted to torture by trying to stay up all night and ring it in the new year in a church service. And so I said, man, I'm going to help out. I'm here. What you need me to do? I think I played drums that service, and then I went up to the tech booth to kind of nod off a little bit. And then there was a big dramatic countdown. There were balloons and fanfare, and people were kind of nervous. They didn't know what was going to happen, and the countdown began. 10, 9, 8, and then I noticed right in front of me in the tech booth, there was a button labeled Master Lights. And then the devil started to speak to me. And he did not appear on my shoulder. He appeared in the form of my best friend, who looked and nodded, winked, and smiled and said, "That's going to happen." I said, "You are Satan, but you are my best friend, so I'm going to have to listen to you." And then another image popped up in my head. It was of my mother. She had her hand reared back, ready to engage my face. And so I was trying to weigh the options. Am I going to be a good young man, or am I going to listen to this voice and freak everybody in the church out? Because literally, it was the master light. I don't know which electrician set this up, but it turned off everything in the entire church. It's like this little dial where you turned it counterclockwise, pushed in, turned it counterclockwise. The instructions were clearly written on the thing, so they wanted me to do this. The countdown started. We're at 5, 4, 3, 2, and then I make eye contact with my best friend. He's just nodding. He's like, "You're in college, you're not in high school, you're not in trouble." And so I said, man, at least I'm going to give them a little concern. I push the button, the lights flicker on and off. A collective gasp through the whole congregation. They thought they were dying. And, they're like, "No, we're going to have to use the water and the canned goods." And I let them think about it for about 2.5 to 10 seconds, and the lights came back on. The lights came back on, and nothing happened in the year 2000 too dramatic. What I need you to know is that the remainder of your life that you have right now, moving on from till question mark is uncharted territory. We've not been there before. Each moment is full of potential, not potential for failures or pain or hurt or catastrophe, disaster, potential for success and joy and happiness, even though some things will happen. Pain and hurt will be with us. We took a trip to Nashville over the winter holiday, my family and I. And we thought we were going to see snow, but we saw a lot of rain. And going up 59 North, and I've been 59 North many times. I used to speak in New Caney all the time, and I passed New Caney. I'm familiar with that place, and we passed Camp Choye on the way. Been there many times, and we went further north, and as we got north, we passed Tyler and all these other places, and we got to Marshall, Texas, towards Texarkana, and I realized that my point of familiarity had been exhausted. That's about the spot where I had no longer had any familiarity with it at all. I've never been here before. So everything from that point on, when we moved into Texarkana, and we moved into Little Rock, and we moved up to Memphis, and on into Nashville, it was all new. And for a guy with ADHD, it's like, oh, squirrel, that's neat. You know, I've never seen that gas station before, and we're going, but I've never been there before. Never been there before. Our church body in the year 2020 has never been to this place. We are poised for growth. We are poised to be a light in this area for years to come, and there's a lot of decisions that need to be made this year. A lot of question marks that need to be answered. But we're still at uncharted territory. I like to study the history of the area that I'm at. I was a resident of Pasadena for about 10 years, living over for a long, long time. But I'm no historian. What I do know about Pasadena, the first inhabitants were Native Americans of the Kiska tribe, and they were amongst the first settlers here in what we know as Pasadena. And then the explorers started to come in, and when Spain was defeated, the Mexican people kind of moved north and said, all right, we're going to try to inhabit this area and make it our own. But at the same time, a man by the name of Stephen F. Austin started to move in the area, and there was some settlement that happened there. Santa Ana gets captured just over 325 in 1836. And then in 1840, I used to think the Allen brothers, the people who discovered Houston, but in 1840, a man by the name of Sam Allen started a 350-acre ranch. It went from East End Houston, what's now East End Houston, went through Pasadena, Brazoria County, and he was one of the mainstays of Pasadena yet. But in 1900, huge hurricane happened and forced a lot of inhabitants, a lot of the people to move just a little bit north. Red Cross gave them some strawberry plants and said, hey, you can plant this and you can make a little bit of money. And so we moved from Galveston to this area with strawberry plants. We know a little bit about Strawberry Road. We know about the Strawberry Festival and all that stuff. They came and that's what they had. And that's how they kind of had a stimulus to their economy. And then Pasadena continued to grow. The industry came in, all the refineries and plants and the modern industry started to take place. Pasadena continued to grow. And this community has a great, rich heritage of working class people who are not afraid to get dirty. But now we find ourselves in the year 2020, and we're at a new place with a new opportunity. And my challenge to everybody here this morning is to say, let's take upon the same mentality and attitude as our forefathers did many in generations before us, who says, I'm going to completely trust in God to navigate me through these uncharted waters. I'm going to completely trust in God to keep me and pressing me forward. If you have your Bibles this morning, Joshua chapter 3. Verse 1, and we're going to move all the way down, maybe to verse 16, if we can get there. The Bible says this: early in the morning, Joshua and all the Israelites set out from Acacia Grove and went to the Jordan, where they camped before crossing over. After 3 days, the officers went throughout the camp, giving orders to the When you see the ark of the covenant of the Lord your God and the Levitical priest carrying it, you are to move out from the position and follow it. Then you will know which way to go, since you have never been this way before. But keep a distance of 2 cubits between you and the ark. Do not go near it. Verse 5. Joshua, consecrate yourself, for tomorrow the Lord will do amazing things among you. Joshua said to the priest, take up the ark of the covenant and pass it ahead of the people. So they took it up and went ahead of them. Moving on down to verse 14, it says, so when the people broke camp to cross the Jordan, the priests carrying the ark of the covenant went ahead of them. Now the Jordan is at flood stage and all yet as soon as the priests who carried the ark reached the Jordan and their feet touched the water's edge, the water from upstream stopped flowing, piled up in a heap a great distance away in a town called Adam in the vicinity of while the water flowing down to the Sea of Arabah, that's the Dead Sea, completely cut off, so the people crossed over opposite of Jericho. This is the word of God for the people of God. Just painting the scene, Joshua and his men were at an impasse. They're at a place where they could not go any further. There was, between them and what God had promised them, was a rushing river, a rushing body of water, who was at flood stage, and so it was not safe to cross. And so they could almost taste the victory. They could almost taste the promise that was right in front of them, that had been promised years and years before. They spent 40 years in the wilderness, and now they can go no further. Their progress is impeded. They can't take another step. And what I learned from this verse, first off, is that what people did when they could move no further is they kept their eyes on God. They kept their eyes on God. They had to wait 3 more days while they had already traveled in a desert for 40 long years. Another 3 days wouldn't make a difference. Keep in mind, Joshua is now about 80 years old at this time, and this was an exciting day. It was an exciting day in the history of God's people. This was the beginning of the covenant that God had made with Abraham 500 years prior to this point. And all the wheels were spinning for the promise to come to pass. Moses got to the edge. He got almost to the point where he was going to receive God's promise, but he never crossed over. Never crossed over. And my question to you this morning is, how many of us get right to the precipice or the edge or right to the brink of success, but we never cross over? Sometimes there's some things beyond our control that come and stop us right in our tracks, that leave us speechless. And man, I was so close, but yet so far. Sometimes it's ourselves getting right in the way. We have some self-defeating tendencies that we get to a point and we can go no further because we are our worst enemy. How many of us can see the promise of God, but we never obtain them? We see God's promise right across. I mean, it's an eye shot, but we can never get there. Notice verse 3. When you see the ark of the covenant of the Lord your God. The ark is mentioned in this time about 7 times. So there must be something important about it. Keeping your eye on the ark of the covenant. One of the greatest joys that I have in life is coaching. And I remember when my children were young and they were just starting out in sports. Before you play baseball, you play this little game called T-ball. That's a term for mass chaos and parents yelling. And you see some strange things in T-ball. You see little boys running the opposite direction. Instead of going to first base, they go to third base. They run straight to the outfield, or they run straight to the refreshment table. T-ball is a fun game. It would be more fun if the parents were removed, because, man, I've seen people almost fight over a 4-year-old T-ball game and one threaten the umpires and all kinds of things that are happening at a 4-year-old T-ball game. But one of the greatest joys that I have in life is coaching and taking a player that has never played before. They're putting the glove on the wrong hand, and they don't know how to throw. They definitely don't know how to catch. But you hear the encouragement of parents all over the United States, all over the world, every backyard. They're all coined the same phrase when they're just starting out. Because after all, baseball is about catching, it's about throwing, it's about hitting. But you can do that if you don't keep your eye on the ball. If you don't keep your eye focused on the ball. And every child does it differently. And some people, they have to see it, and other people take every word that you say literally. And it kind of looks like this.
All right, ready, set, swing it. There it is. So, hey, remember, keep your eye. All right, ready, set. There it is. So, hey, remember, keep your eye on the ball. Try again. Eye on the ball. Swing it. Eye on the ball.
What can you do at that point? When you, after all, the dad said, keep your eye on the ball, and he definitely kept his eye on the ball. You know, he was just instructions. He's one of those kids that took literal instruction, put his eye on the ball. The passage of Scripture that we read, God tells his people to stay focused on the Ark of the Covenant that symbolizes the presence of God. In that Ark of the Covenant were three items. It was Aaron's rod. It was the stone tablets. It was the pot of manna. And you're like, what are the significance of those things? Aaron's rod, a sign of God's miraculous power. The stone tablets, God's law and his words, his commands. The pot of manna, God's provision. All these things were locked up in that Ark of the Covenant, and God's instructions are simple. Keep your eye focused on my presence. Obstacles are God's way of prying us out of a comfort zone or a rut or the mundane or doing the same thing over and over and over again. The Jordan River forced Joshua out of the rut of being second in command and thrust him into leadership. The river compelled them to get out of the manna mentality where they received manna and blessing from heaven every morning, every single morning, manna. Their clothes never wore out, but things were about to change. Transition, and under Joshua's leadership, the people now prepared to cross over the Jordan River. Verse 4 says, that you may know the way to go. So you can know which way to go. That's like a novel idea. In the day of modern technology, most of us, when we set off now to a place, we have no clue how to get there without the help of Surrey, without the help of Waze, without the help of MapQuest, without the help of some direction to go the right way. Yesterday, my daughter had an audition, and we were in a haste to make the call time, and we were and getting things ready. We had to have all kinds of stuff prepared for this audition, and I like sleep, so I was not awake. I'm trying to rush and hurry, and in my haste to leave, I left my phone. And I knew that I had to be north of town, so I got on that freeway. I was getting there as fast as I could, and I got to about the place where I needed to finish off and get to the location that I was at. So I reached for my phone, and I have that feeling like, uh-oh, my phone is not there. So I am now in a panic state. And my daughter's like, what happened, you know? And I'm, losing my way because I'm like, I have no idea where I'm at. We got to be there in about 10 minutes, and we got to figure this out. So hunting and trying to find directions and instruction. It's okay to admit, especially for us guys, that we need a little help and we need a little guidance. We just continue driving. Eventually, 610's a loop. Eventually, you'll get to where you go. It's okay sometimes to say, man, I need a little help. I need a little guidance. God said, keep your eye on my presence so that you may know the way to go. If we keep our gaze solely and completely fixed upon God, we're going to know which way to go in this year. We're going to know what we need to do, what decisions need to be made. The second principle I took from this verse is that we got to keep our hearts prepared. We got to keep our hearts prepared. The verse says, sanctify your heart. The Hebrew word is dash, means to be set apart, to be consecrated. Painful. To be consecrated, to be holy, to be pure, to be righteous. For each person that means something different. Your level of holiness may far exceed my level of holiness. But what God is asking is for us to be ready, to sanctify your heart. Blessing coming in. If you want to see my promises take place, you got to prepare yourselves. You got to sanctify your heart. There's a story that I read about two farmers. They had two different methods when it came to stuff. These two farmers, they lived on adjacent properties, and they're in the middle of a long drought. They had left their land parched because of the drought, making it the most impossible to grow crops. One day, Joe looked over the fence, building a new dam, and he asked, "What are you doing?" "Water." "The rain is coming," Hank replied. Joe looked up at the cloudless sky, shrugged his shoulders, and walked away. A couple of weeks later, Joe looked up at the fence again, and he saw Hank working on a new irrigation system. "What's the point of that?" "There's no water," Joe shouted. "The rain is coming," replied Hank. "That's what you said last time," Joe muttered under his breath, and he turned and walked away. A few weeks later, large clouds appeared and started to fill the sky. The rain finally fell, breaking the drought with a massive downfall. Had potential to change the future of all the farmers in the region. Hank looked out from his farmhouse, his new irrigation system filled with precious water, ensuring benefit from the rain for a long time to come in the future. Joe was relieved to see the rain, but he was unprepared, and his property soon dried up again. A few months later, Joe looked over the fence, and Hank had a luscious farm, and he looked over with envy. Why is he so lucky, he asked himself. Hank looked back at his neighbors, full of a farm, with pity. Why is he so foolish, he asked himself. Sometimes we go through life, and maybe we're at a rut, we're in a drought, we're at a place where we haven't been before, and God is saying, get ready. Get ready. Something good is about to happen. You're not prepared, though. You're at a place where you can almost see it. You can visualize it in your mind. You can visualize it in your head. And God is saying, the downpour is about to happen. Rain's about to come. You may not see a cloud in the sky, but rain's about to come in your life. You might say, man, I need a blessing in this area of my life. I need a blessing in my marriage. I need a blessing in my finances. I need a blessing in my health. And you may not see it happening. There might not be a cloud in the sky. But God's saying, prepare yourself for the blessing. And how do we prepare ourselves? By being pure, by being sanctified, by saying, I'm going to do a little bit more, and I'm going to be a better version of myself. How many of us miss an opportunity to step into our dreams because we're not prepared? How many of us fail to get to where we need to go because we're just simply not ready? God's saying, start to build right now, just like Noah did when there was a cloud in the sky, because a downpour is about to happen. Last thing this morning is we got to keep executing God's instructions. The people of God were at an impasse. They could go no further. And there was a raging body of water standing in front of them. Verse 8 says, you shall command the priest who bear the ark of the covenant, saying, when you come to the water's edge of the Jordan, you shall stand in the Jordan. Raging water. And God is asking his people to step out from the bank into raging water. Some people believe 40 feet deep. Why in the world? I would not sign up for that. All right, you bear the ark, and you to step out. It took guts. It took faith. It took blind belief to say, all right, I'm going to step out where raging water is, and I'm going to just see God's miracle happen. Why so much faith? Well, you forget, man, this was a people who saw the part. This was a people who saw their food fall from heaven, that their clothes never wore out. They saw miracle after miracle after miracle. But that generation has since passed, and now they find themselves right here, right on the precipice of receiving their promise. But what separated them was huge, was daunting, was intimidating. But someone had to step in and believe. So they kept on executing God's command and said, man, I'm going to do what I said. I'm going to do what he says. And as they did that, they kept on receiving God's promise. Verse 17, then the priest before the ark of the covenant of the Lord stood firm on dry ground in the midst of the Jordan. And all of Israel crossed over on dry ground until all the people crossed over completely over the Jordan. This was a miracle. This was a miracle. The river raised. It was at flood state. They crossed over. They knew they could see the promise was even closer. The next thing that happened, Joshua in the battle of Jericho, they have an eventual victory. Something that seemed ridiculous. Something like, man, I am not going to step into that place. God still asks of his people to do things in faith. Even in this modern age, in the founding year of 2020, God still asks us to take a leap of faith on from dry ground into a raging body of water, metaphorically speaking. I think maybe this year God may ask this church to step out and take a huge leap of faith. Are we going to be ready? Are we going to be prepared? Are we going to say, I'm going to do it even if it seems like the most ridiculous thing? I'm reminded of a story in closing of a little boy named James who was playing with and he was trying to fight his bedtime, and his mom wanted him to go up to sleep. He went up to sleep, and his mom went to check on him about an hour later, and she saw her son at the window. And as she walked in the room, she wanted to scold him and reprimand him from not being in bed, but he quickly said a couple of words to his mom, pointed at the moon, and said, Mom, someday I'm going to go there. At that time, space exploration had not even been invented. There was no space shuttle, there was no NASA or aeronautical program that could get him there. It seemed like a unattainable goal. So she kind of nodded and smiled, got him into bed. Night after night, he would say, Mom, someday I'm going to be there. Up through the ranks of the military, he became one of the first James Irwin to land on the moon and to step foot on the moon. And it wasn't easy. He probably had to go through a vast, rigorous training, things that were really difficult. But he achieved that goal because first he had a dream, and he saw something in his mind that wasn't even invented. Let's pray this morning. God, thank you so much for your word, and we know that your word will not return void. We know, God, that even though we may have never passed this way before, that when we go through uncharted areas of our lives, we got to keep our eyes on you. We got to stay focused on you. We got to listen for your voice of instruction. We got to keep our hearts prepared by the act of consecration and be prepared to build and go places we haven't gone. And we have to execute and say, God, I'm going to step out in faith. God, I pray today, God, each and every one of us, God, this morning, some of us, not in generalities regarding the church, some of us need to step out in our personal lives in faith and say, God, I'm going to trust you. Even when it's crazy, God, I'm still going to trust you. God, I'm going to execute your commands. God, I'm going to follow after you. I'm going to consecrate myself, and I'm going to prepare myself for a blessing, even though there may not be a cloud in the sky. Thank you for your word. In Jesus' name.